Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Minister Watt. Over the last few months, the spotlight has been shone on our supermarkets, with countless reports of complaints about pricing practices. Speaking to the ABC, Jennifer Doakey from Western New South Wales said, "Our fridges are bare because we can't afford fresh fruit and veggies. Before, you could fill the trolley with all the food you want, but we just can't afford to buy it now." New South Wales farmers have said farmers find themselves at a loss to explain the growing gap between farmgate and retail and ordinary Australians who are copping it. So, with reference to concerns about the different price farmers are paid for their produce, with what Aussies are being charged at the checkout, what is the Albanese government doing to address these discrepancies?
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Pratt, for, I think, a really important question going to the point about cost of living pressures that Australians are experiencing. The Albanese government certainly understands that Australians are under the pump, and as a government we are doing everything we can to address it. That's why we're delivering billions of dollars in cost of living relief on things like energy bills, medicines, cheaper childcare and, of course, Labor's tax cuts from the 1st of July. But we also recognise that competition can play an important part in easing the pressure on households and businesses. After a wasted coalition decade, Labor is getting on with the job of making the Australian economy more competitive and fairer for producers and consumers. We've increased the penalty for anti-competitive conduct and banned unfair contract terms. Last year, we reviewed the Food and Grocery Code of Conduct's dispute resolution provisions, and this year we've asked Dr Craig Emerson to review the code itself. Dr Emerson's review is looking at the relationship between farmgate and retail prices and whether or not there can be more transparency in the food supply chain. The code was originally put in place to address the imbalance of market power between supermarkets and their suppliers, especially smaller producers and farmers. But many farmers have certainly spoken to me about how hard they find it to deal with the supermarket chains and the lack of transparency that exists in those negotiations. This review of the code marks an important step towards understanding how our supermarket sector is working to deliver fair prices for everyday Australians and for our hard-working farmers. As part of the review, I convened 2 roundtables, one with primary producer groups and another with processor groups and unions, so that they could have the opportunity to put directly to Dr Emerson their views about how the agriculture sector should be operating. We've also initiated an ACCC inquiry into supermarket prices and commissioned Consumer Group Choice to provide quarterly price reporting.
Minister. Senator Pratt, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. In evidence of which you're aware given during the public hearings of the Senate Select Committee on supermarket prices, we've heard stories, as you know, from farmers going out of business as a result of poor conduct by supermarkets. Given the cost of living pressures that are impacting families across the nation, including our farming families, what is the government doing to help relieve cost of living pressures for our farmers and our regional communities?
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Pratt, for your participation in that Senate Select Committee, along with a number of other senators in this chamber. I think it's revealing some very important information about what is actually going on between supermarkets and farmers and has been hidden for too long. We know that Australians are under cost of living pressure, and that's why every Australian taxpayer will get a tax cut from the 1st of July, and most people will get a bigger tax cut to help with these cost of living pressures. Importantly, more than 90% of people working in the agriculture, fisheries or forestry sectors will receive a tax cut. Even though inflation is coming down in welcome and encouraging ways, even though we've got wages growth, which is a good thing as well, we know that people are still under the pump. That's why these tax cuts are so important, and it's why the Treasurer has said that if we can do more in the May budget, we will. We're also rolling out cheaper medicines, opposed by the Coalition, delivering more affordable housing for the bush, opposed by the Coalition. We've had electricity bill rebates, opposed by the Coalition, and we're doing a lot more.
Has expired. Senator Pratt, second supplementary.
Thank you. It is clear that cost of living pressures are front of mind for Australian families. So why is it important that providing cost of living relief is prioritised across the parliament?
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Pratt. We've said all along that what we want is a fair deal for families and a fair go for farmers. And while we've had a laser-like focus on cost of living in this government, what have the Liberal and National parties focused on? Firstly, rolling out the most expensive energy policy in the history of our country, which would put experimental nuclear reactors in cyclone-prone areas, driving power prices up. Secondly, they're too busy promoting Putin-backing extremists who say that gender is a grievance narrative to the top of their Senate tickets. And of course, they're not coming clean on whether they'll keep Labor's tax cuts if they ever were elected. But they're not alone in being distracted or divisive. The Greens political party, whose housing spokesperson told the ABC's Insiders program that we have enough homes in this country, tell that to those living in West End. Intense.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator McKim, there is no need to shout out. If I don't see you standing, the clerk will draw my attention to you. Senator McKim.
Well, thank you, President. The point of order is that the minister is reflecting on a member of the other place, and in fact he's reflecting by lying about what he said.
Senator McKim, that is not a point of order, and I would ask you to withdraw the comment you made.
I do withdraw. He is misleading the chamber, and it is a point of order.
Senator McKim, I did not invite you to debate the issue. I will ask you once again, order, Senator Watt, to simply withdraw. You need to stand and do that.
I withdraw.
Thank you. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President. So the Greens are sensitive about the fact that they continue to delay Labor's important housing initiatives. They demand and protest about needing more housing and then getting the—
Has expired. Senator Hughes.
Thank you.